We'll now talk about the introduction of a research paper. The title of an article should be clear and concise, include adequate descriptors, include the type of participants, the dependent variable and the independent variable. It should include the research questions. It should include the type of research, whether it's longitudinal, cross-sectional, or meta-analysis. And you shouldn't be afraid to use subtitles. The components of an introduction. An introduction is an overview of the topic, the issue, or the theories related to the topic. From general background to more specific background. Present work that's under review is put into categories: for and against alternative reviews. Gaps in the literature are mentioned. The purpose of the study, the research question, the hypothesis, or the predictions. Hypothesis is a statement based upon an observation of how one thing is to be affected by another. On the other hand, a prediction is simply a guess as to the outcome of certain events. For example, a correct hypothesis is: weather is better for describing bird migration patterns than climate. A prediction of this statement would be read: weather, instead of climate, is responsible for determining bird migration patterns. While the change in wording may seem slight, it shifts the focus to the causation instead of the overall outcome. A hypothesis is best described as an educated guess about causation, not conclusion. Hypotheses: the quantity and the quality of the language experience influences vocabulary development in childhood. A prediction: if a child receives less language stimulation, his or her language skills will be hampered. There are two important skills necessary for a good introduction: information seeking, or the ability to scan the literature efficiently using manual or computerized methods to identify a set of useful articles and books; and critical appraisal, the ability to apply principles of analysis to identify unbiased and valid studies. In writing a literature review, your purpose is to convey to your reader what knowledge and ideas have been established on a topic, and what their strengths and weaknesses are. As a piece of writing, the literature review must be defined by a guiding concept. For example, your research objective, the problem or issue you are discussing, or your augmentative thesis. It is not just a descriptive list of materials available or a set of summaries. What is the scope of my literature review? What type of publications am I using? For example, journals, books, government documents, popular media. What discipline am I working in? Nursing psychology, sociology, medicine. How good was my information seeking? Has my search been wide enough to ensure I found all the relevant materials? Has it been narrow enough to exclude irrelevant material? Is the number of sources I've used appropriate for the length of my paper? Have I critically analyzed the literature I use? Do I follow through a set of concepts and questions, comparing items to each other and the ways they deal with them? Instead of just listing and summarizing items, do I assess them, discussing strengths and weaknesses? A good literature review places each work in the context of its contribution to the understanding of the subject under review. It describes the relationship of each work and how they are related to others. It identifies new ways to interpret work, resolves conflicts among seemingly contradictory previous studies, identifying gaps in previous research, points out ways to move forward with the literature, identifies the significance of the proposed research in the context of the existing literature. A literature review must be organized around and related directly to the thesis or research question you are developing. A literature review must synthesize results into a summary of what is and is not known. A literature review identifies areas of controversy in the literature. A literature review must formulate questions that need further research.